My beloved child, a stirring has been rising inside you, a quiet tremble in the unseen. And Archangel Michael steps forward now because this moment, this exact breath, was foretold long before you ever felt the ache for clarity in your spirit. His presence surrounds you like a shield of gold fire, and he whispers that what you are sensing is not confusion, it is awakening. You are standing at the edge of a revelation that has been trying to reach you for months, maybe even years, and heaven has chosen now to speak because your heart is finally ready to receive what was once hidden. There is a reason your soul has been crying without sound, searching for something you couldn't name. Archangel Michael shows me a vision, your spirit knocking gently on a closed door, one you didn't even realize existed. And now, he is opening that door for you. A light pours through it, not harsh, not overwhelming, but a warm, precise glow that reveals the truth you have been longing to understand. He tells me this moment was written for them. They could not miss it. You are not here by accident. You are here because the heavens scheduled this divine interruption. Listen closely, Michael says there is something you have been ignoring, not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. Your inner voice has been trying to guide you, but life has been too loud, too heavy. Today, that changes. Today, the noise falls away so you can finally hear the message meant only for you. He is placing clarity in your hands. Clarity about something that's been confusing your steps, blurring your direction, or clouding your relationships. The fog breaks now. And yet, Archangel Michael warns gently, if you stop listening halfway, the revelation will remain unfinished. This is why he urges you to stay with him through every word. What comes next will uncover something vital, something your future needs. Before you move forward in life, before you make your next decision, before you speak your next promise, heaven wants your spirit to be aligned. This message is not random. It is surgery for the soul. Michael shows me the image of a thread, a thin, glowing thread, stretched between your past and your destiny. You have been walking with a subtle tension in your heart because something in your past is still attached, still tugging, still whispering. But the pull is weakening. He says you have been sensing a shift, a turn, a push towards something new. This is confirmation. The old season is shutting like a book, and the next one begins the moment you understand what he is revealing now. You may have felt tired, distracted, overwhelmed, or disconnected recently, but that was not failure. It was spiritual positioning. Heaven has been rearranging things behind the scenes, directing your steps even when you thought you were standing still. Archangel Michael has been guarding your sleep, your thoughts, and even your silence. He has kept certain doors closed and certain people away, because what is meant to reach you requires purity, not noise. But here is the part you must not miss. Michael is about to expose a truth that will set your heart free. Something you misunderstood. Something you blamed yourself for. Something you thought was your fault, when in reality, it was divine redirection. He says, do not fear the truth, for truth is the beginning of restoration. You are not losing. You are aligning. There is a shift happening inside you right now, even as you listen, a recalibration of your inner compass. Michael's wings wrap around your spirit, lifting you out of old pain and into clarity. You will begin to sense peace rising where confusion once lived. You will feel understanding forming where frustration once clouded your vision. You will notice that something inside you has finally exhaled. Stay right here because the next part reveals the hidden peace, the reason your soul has been restless. Trust me, you do not want to miss what is coming. This is where the revelation sharpens. Type "I align with truth" in the comments if this message is touching your spirit. Blessing code 144 is released over you now. Dearest heart, a stirring ripple moves across the spiritual atmosphere as Archangel Michael steps closer, his presence unfolding like a mantle of strength around your weary places. He says there is something you have been sensing that you could not quite articulate. A quiet shift, a subtle unease, a whisper inside your chest that did not match your outer circumstances. You tried to push it aside, thinking it was overthinking or emotional exhaustion. But Michael reveals today that what you felt was not emotional at all. It was prophetic sensitivity. Your spirit recognized a divine movement before your mind could understand it. And that inner restlessness was heaven's way of preparing you for this unfolding moment. You are being realigned with truth, and that alignment often begins as a gentle spiritual discomfort. Not punishment, not confusion. Preparation. Michael shows me an image of you standing at the edge of a vast field covered in morning mist. You could not see the horizon clearly, yet you kept walking because something inside you told you the landscape was changing. That instinct was not random. It was guidance. Heaven has been pulling you out of an old pattern, an old wound, an old version of yourself that no longer fits where you are going. The mist begins to lift now because revelation is approaching, and with it comes understanding, stability, and a deep sense of inner certainty you have been craving for far too long. Michael says clarity is not given all at once. It is unfolded layer by layer so that your heart is strong enough to receive what comes next. Today marks the lifting of one of those layers. There is a weight you have been carrying that does not belong to you. At times you blamed yourself for situations that were shaped by forces you could not control. Michael says your conscience is tender, but your judgment of yourself has often been harsher than heaven's assessment of you. You replayed moments, conversations, and choices, wondering if you could have done something differently. But he reveals now that the unfolding of events was guided, not ruined. What you saw as loss was actually divine protection. What felt like delay was strategic timing. What seemed like silence was heaven rerouting you toward the clarity you are receiving now. Michael urges you to breathe deeply because the truth will bring peace, not pain. You have been standing between chapters, not fully in the old, not fully in the new, and that in-between space can feel like emotional limbo. But Archangel Michael says this transitional place is holy. It is where heaven rewires your inner landscape. It is where you unlearn old survival patterns. It is where you drop what can no longer travel with you. This season has been uncomfortable, but it has also been sacred. Every unanswered question, every unexpected pause, every moment of quiet confusion was part of a spiritual recalibration. Your identity has been shifting, your perspective has been stretching, and your spirit has been preparing to receive insight that would have overwhelmed you months ago. You are stronger now. Soft, but strong. Open, but grounded. Michael brings another vision, you holding a lantern with a small flame flickering inside. The flame represents your inner truth, the part of you heaven has been guarding fiercely. You felt that flame shake when people dismissed your intuition, or when circumstances made you doubt your worth. But the flame never went out. In fact, it grew stronger in the dark because darkness forces light to concentrate, not disappear. Michael says the flame represents your calling, your discernment, your purpose, and your spiritual sensitivity. And now that the mist is lifting, you will begin to understand why your spirit felt what it felt. You were not imagining anything. You were being awakened. There is also someone or something your heart has been wrestling with. A situation that feels unresolved or unclear. Michael reveals that understanding will come, but not through force, fear, or overthinking. It will come through revelation. Heaven does not rush clarity. Heaven times clarity. You will soon recognize a pattern, a truth, or a hidden meaning you never noticed before. It will feel like puzzle pieces finally snapping together. A gentle relief will settle over you, not because everything will instantly change, but because you will finally see the deeper truth behind it all. Clarity brings peace, and peace brings direction, and direction brings strength. Michael leans closer now, his presence strengthening your spirit. He says the next layer of revelation will touch the roots, the hidden places, the silent places, the places even you have not fully explored. But do not fear. Truth does not come to break you, it comes to free you. And what is being prepared for you in the spiritual realm requires a heart unburdened by misunderstanding. You are being shaped for alignment, not confusion. Prepared for purpose, not chaos. Positioned for clarity, not doubt. Hold still for a moment. Feel the shift within. Something is loosening. Something is being lifted. Something is being revealed. Do not rush this unfolding. Michael says you will want to hear what comes next, because the next layer unveils the hidden cry of your spirit and the divine answer you have been waiting for without realizing it. Wait a little longer. This is where the revelation sharpens even more. Type "I receive the light" in the comments if this message touches your spirit. Blessing code 229 has now been released. Beloved soul, a deeper stirring rises within you as Archangel Michael steps forward with renewed intensity, his presence unfolding like a sweeping tide of truth, meant to break through every veil that has clouded your understanding. He says this moment is not merely another message, not another gentle whisper, not another soft nudge. This moment is a spiritual turning point, a hinge between what you thought you understood and what heaven is finally ready to reveal. You have been asking for clarity, sometimes with words, sometimes with tears, sometimes with silent thoughts you never voiced. And heaven has heard every single one of them. Michael says, your spirit cried out long before your mind admitted it, and heaven has answered. What is opening before you is not just guidance, it is revelation. There has been a recurring tension in your life, something that pulls at you when the night is quiet and your mind is honest. At times you felt close to understanding it, but the moment you tried to grasp it, it slipped through your fingers again. This is because it was not meant to be understood through logic. It had to be revealed through spirit. Michael shows me an image of a sealed scroll hovering above your life. You sensed it was there. You felt its weight. You felt the pressure of its contents even though you could not read it. That spiritual pressure was not anxiety. It was the weight of truth waiting for permission to be released. Today, the seal breaks. You have been standing at a crossroad, though not visibly. On one path lies what is familiar, cycles, patterns, old expectations, roles you have outgrown. On the other path lies the unknown, a direction your spirit has been quietly turning toward even while your mind hesitates. What you perceived as confusion was actually your soul realigning with heaven's rhythm, shaking you out of what no longer feeds your purpose. This moment, Michael says, is the moment the two paths separate clearly. What was tangled becomes distinct. What was cloudy becomes sharp. What was hidden becomes illuminated. Michael reveals something crucial. Your spirit saw something before your eyes did. It sensed a misalignment, a relationship, a habit, a belief, or an emotional burden that no longer aligns with your divine path. You felt the discomfort of it long before you understood the why. But heaven never exposes something to shame you. It exposes to free you. You are being shifted out of emotional fog and into divine clarity. And once clarity enters, you cannot go back to confusion. The light you receive now will become your new standard, your new awareness, your new strength. There is also a decision you have been postponing. Not because you are indecisive, but because you wanted certainty. You wanted heaven to confirm whether the step you feel drawn toward is truly your next step or simply an emotional impulse. Michael confirms the truth. The hesitation was not fear. It was spiritual timing. Heaven was aligning the surroundings, the internal readiness, and the divine protection around your decision. And now, he says, the moment has ripened. You will soon feel a sudden inner knowing, a calm and quiet certainty that will guide your steps as if the path is unfolding beneath your feet. Michael shows another vision, a mirror covered in dust. You have been looking at yourself through layers of old beliefs, old wounds, old judgments placed on you by others. But as he wipes the mirror clean, your true reflection begins to surface, strong, chosen, spiritually sensitive, divinely guided. You will soon recognize yourself in a new way. Not weaker than you thought, but stronger than you realized. Not lost, but guided. Not forgotten, but protected. Not confused, but awakening. Your life has been shifting behind the scenes. Certain people grew distant. Certain opportunities paused. Certain desires quieted. Certain doors did not open. You took some of these as setbacks or uncertainties, but Michael reveals they were divine barriers protecting your path. What you thought was rejection was often redirection. What appeared as silence was preparation. What felt like stillness was spiritual rearrangement. Every delay, every pause, every unexpected turn was heaven shielding you from what would have drained you or distracted you. But hear this carefully. Michael says the next revelation will expose a truth about someone or something that has been weighing on your spirit. Not to create fear or conflict, but to bring peace and release. Something that has been confusing your emotional clarity is about to be illuminated. And once you see it, you will understand why your spirit cried out for direction. You will recognize the signs that were appearing around you. And you will feel a sudden, powerful sense of relief that you cannot yet imagine. Stay with this unfolding. Michael whispers, the revelation deepens from here. And he urges you not to drift away, because what comes next will connect every unanswered question into a single divine thread. The clarity you have been seeking is not far. It is approaching like dawn. Before you step into the next unfolding, pause and anchor your spirit. What is coming next will complete the message heaven has been shaping inside you. Type "I claim this revelation" in the comments if this message is stirring your spirit. Blessing code 441 has been released upon your journey. Now take a moment and breathe, because what you hear next will reshape the way you see this entire season. If this message has touched your heart, like this video, share it with someone who needs clarity, comment your confirmation, and subscribe so you never miss what heaven releases next. Your engagement spreads this divine message farther into the world. Precious soul, a deeper quiet settles around you now as Archangel Michael steps closer with a solemn, unwavering presence, carrying a revelation meant to reach the inmost places of your spirit. He says there is something you have been carrying that has gone unspoken for too long, a weight you tucked inside your heart because you felt you had no safe place to set it down. You pressed forward through days when your strength felt thin, and you smiled through moments where your spirit trembled. Yet heaven saw every hidden ache. Michael reveals that your silence has not been ignored. It has been recorded in the spiritual realm as a cry for clarity, for direction, for release. You have been longing for something you could not fully identify, and heaven has been preparing the answer long before you asked for it in words. There is a truth emerging now, one that has been building through each moment of inner unrest you experienced. Michael shows me an image of a river flowing beneath the ground, invisible yet powerful, shaping the landscape above it without ever being seen. Your spirit has been like that river, moving, shifting, searching, guiding you even when your mind felt still. You sensed that something was changing behind the scenes, but you could not place the source of this shift. Today, that unseen movement begins to rise to the surface. The river of revelation breaks through the soil and becomes visible, unmistakable, undeniable. Michael says there is a reason you have been feeling disconnected from certain people, places, or cycles. A spiritual detachment has been unfolding, not because of rejection or failure, but because heaven has been pruning your path. You have outgrown certain vibrations, certain conversations, certain emotional patterns that once felt normal to you. He reveals that your sensitivity has increased. Your discernment has sharpened. Your spirit has begun to reject anything that disrupts your peace or dims your clarity. Situations that once energized you now make your soul feel heavy, and interactions that once felt familiar now leave you drained. This is not emotional instability. This is spiritual elevation. Heaven is lifting you above old frequencies so you can hear its guidance without distortion. Michael brings a profound message. You are being separated from confusion. The tangled knots that once seemed impossible to unravel will begin loosening as clarity flows in like a quiet wave. He says you have been living with the subtle inner tension, a feeling you could not shake even on calm days. You thought it was stress or overthinking, but he reveals it was your deeper self resisting misalignment. Every part of you that was meant for your destiny has been pulling you away from what could not go with you. That pull has been divine. That pull has been protective. You may have noticed your dreams becoming more vivid, your intuition becoming sharper, or your awareness expanding in ways you could not explain. Michael says this is because heaven has been speaking to you in layers, through impressions, through subtle signs, through quiet internal nudges, through unexpected encounters, through sudden inner warnings you could not ignore. The spiritual realm has been guiding you gently, drawing you toward revelation. You are not imagining the signs. You are not overthinking the shifts. You are awakening. There is also something you misunderstood about yourself. For a long time, you believed you were overly sensitive or too emotional or too reactive. Michael corrects this gently. You were never too sensitive. You were spiritually perceptive. Your heart feels deeply because your calling requires depth. Your intuition heightens because your path requires awareness. Your emotions respond quickly because your spirit discerns quickly. You have been interpreting gifts as flaws because no one taught you how to recognize divine sensitivity. But heaven says your sensitivity is part of your assignment. It is your spiritual radar, not your weakness. Michael shows another vision, a locked door with a brilliant light shining from behind its edges. You have stood before this door many times in your life, wondering what is on the other side, sensing its importance, feeling drawn to it even when you did not know how to open it. That door represents clarity. It represents truth waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. It represents a spiritual maturity you were not yet ready to walk in. But Michael declares that the lock is turning now. The door begins to open. What you are about to walk into is not another cycle of confusion. It is the beginning of divine insight. Something within you is shifting even as you read these words. You may feel a gentle stirring in your chest, a warmth in your spirit, a sense of settling or recognition. That is your inner self responding to truth. Michael says clarity is not always loud. Sometimes it comes like a soft dawn breaking through long darkness. Sometimes it comes as a peaceful knowing that replaces years of questioning. Sometimes it comes as a quiet relief that tells you heaven has been holding you the entire time. But before the next revelation unfolds, Michael gently warns you to stay close, stay attentive, stay present. What comes next will reach a deeper level of truth, one that will bring understanding to a situation that has burdened your heart for far too long. He says, "Do not drift away now." The next unveiling carries the key, and your spirit will not want to miss what heaven is preparing to reveal. Hold steady, the revelation sharpens from here, and your spirit is finally ready to receive what it has been calling out for all this time. Type "I walk in clarity" in the comments if this message is awakening something within you. Blessing code 550 is released over your journey. Beloved one, a deeper resonance begins to rise within you as Archangel Michael steps forward again, carrying a fresh wave of clarity meant to reach the parts of your spirit that have remained quiet and waiting. He says you are entering a phase of revelation where the truths you once sensed vaguely will now begin to sharpen with unmistakable definition. This is not accidental. This is timing. Heaven reveals only when your spirit is steady enough to hold the weight of what is being shown, and you have finally reached that moment of inner readiness. Michael's presence surrounds you like a circle of burning light, not to intimidate your spirit, but to strengthen it. He whispers that you are about to understand something you have carried for far too long without words, something that shaped your emotions, your decisions, and your silence. There is a reason your soul has been restless, a reason your heart has felt suspended between what you know and what you feel. Michael says there is a truth your spirit has perceived, but your mind has struggled to interpret. You sensed a shift in someone's energy. You sensed a change in a situation. You sensed a quiet warning or a subtle pull away from something that once felt safe. You dismissed it at times, thinking you were imagining it, overthinking it, or reading too deeply into nothing. But Michael reveals that what you sensed was real. Your spirit knew what your eyes had not yet seen. Heaven has been guiding you through intuition, through internal signals, through subtle discomfort, through sudden moments of clarity that appeared without explanation. Michael shows me a vision of a pathway that once looked straight, but is now branching into a new direction. You reached this fork without planning it, without expecting it, without fully understanding why it had to happen. But every divine shift begins with a moment like this, a moment where your spirit outgrows a space your body is still standing in. That feeling of being done, but not knowing why. That feeling of being pulled, but not knowing where. That feeling of silent transition. Heaven calls it spiritual repositioning. Your soul moves before your surroundings follow. There is also a matter of the heart that heaven is touching now. Michael says there has been someone or something that has occupied more emotional space in your spirit than you realize. A situation that has remained unresolved. A person who has remained unclear. A pattern that has repeated itself quietly, trying to teach you a lesson you have not fully grasped. You have been trying to interpret the meaning behind the discomfort, the confusion, or the sudden distance. And heaven is ready to show you why. He reveals that you have been internalizing burdens that were never yours to carry, responsibilities that belong to others, emotions that were projected onto you, expectations that limited your growth. You blamed yourself for situations that were shaped by deeper truths you could not yet see. But Michael says the fog is lifting. What felt like personal failure will soon be recognized as spiritual protection. The truth will free you from guilt, from pressure, from misinterpretation, from emotional exhaustion. You will finally see the situation for what it truly is, not what you feared it might be. Michael brings forward another vision, you standing in a dimly lit room, holding a lantern that glows with steady light. Around you are shadows that once intimidated you, shadows created by uncertainty, doubt, and emotional confusion. But as you lift the lantern higher, the shadows shrink, retreat, and dissolve. He says this lantern represents divine clarity, and the room represents your inner world. Every place where confusion once lived will soon be illuminated. You will see your path. You will see your truth. You will see what aligns with your soul and what no longer resonates with who you are becoming. There is also a specific moment approaching, an encounter, a realization, or a shift in perspective that will confirm everything your spirit has been sensing. You may hear something. You may notice something. You may feel a sudden internal release that signals the truth has arrived. Heaven is not revealing this to overwhelm you, but to free you, to reposition you, to prepare you. Your next chapter requires the emotional clarity, spiritual awareness, and internal strength. And clarity always comes before elevation. Michael says your spirit has already begun stepping into the next version of yourself. That inner expansion you felt, a sudden desire for peace, for meaning, for authenticity, for truth, is not a phase. It is transformation. You are becoming someone new, someone deeper, someone wiser, someone stronger. Your spirit is shedding the last layers of old pain, old illusions, and old limitations. The parts of you that once tolerated emotional imbalance will no longer accept it. The parts of you that once felt afraid of change will now crave alignment. This is the work of heaven within you. But before the next layer of revelation unfolds, Michael urges you to stay present. Something important is approaching in the next unveiling. Something that will explain the emotional tension you could never quite understand. He whispers gently, "You are closer than you think. Do not step away now. There is a moment of truth coming that will bring peace, release, and understanding in a way you have longed for without knowing how to express. Hold steady, beloved soul. The revelation deepens from here." Type "I rise in revelation" in the comments if this message is confirming what your spirit already knew. Blessing code 663 is released over your path. Beloved soul of light, a powerful stillness fills the atmosphere around you as Archangel Michael steps closer with a depth of presence that signifies a turning point in this divine unfolding. He says you have reached a threshold in your journey, a spiritual edge where the next truth must be delivered with precision, care, and heavenly timing. For too long, you have lived in the tension between what you feel and what you can explain. Your spirit has spoken in whispers, in discomfort, in sudden intuition, in quiet warnings that you could not translate into words. But today, Michael brings the clarity that your heart has been stretching toward. He says, you are not confused. You are awakening. And this awakening is not subtle. It is a deep spiritual correction that will realign your understanding, your direction, and your inner peace. Michael shows me an image of a room with windows covered in thick curtains. The light outside is bright, warm, and waiting, but the heavy fabric has been blocking your ability to see the truth clearly. You have sensed the light. You have felt the glow behind the curtain, but the details remained hidden. Heaven has been waiting for the exact moment when revealing the truth would not overwhelm you, but empower you. That moment is now. Michael gently pulls the curtain back, and what unfolds is not a blinding revelation, but a soft illumination that allows your spirit to breathe in ways it hasn't in a very long time. There has been a deeper reason for your recent emotional shifts, a reason your energy has changed, a reason your heart has been quieter yet more sensitive, a reason you've been reflecting more, withdrawing from noise, and longing for inner clarity. Michael reveals that your spirit has been cleansing itself from attachments and energies that were draining your vitality. This cleansing was subtle at first, a tightness you couldn't explain, a heaviness you carried without cause, an urge to distance yourself from certain words, behaviors, or environments. You thought it was exhaustion. You thought it was personal. But heaven says it was spiritual detox. Your spirit was releasing everything that would interfere with the revelation unfolding now. Michael brings forward another image, a scale, slightly tipped, out of balance but not irreparable. He says this scale represents your internal world, where your emotions, intuition, logic, and spiritual sensitivity have been trying to find equilibrium. For months, maybe even years, one side has been weighed down by unanswered questions, emotional imbalances, or unspoken concerns. You pushed forward, trying to maintain balance through strength alone, unaware that heaven was preparing a divine rebalancing for you. The shift begins now. The weight on the scale is being lifted, slowly, steadily, deliberately. Clarity will take the place of confusion. Truth will take the place of uncertainty. Peace will take the place of inner exhaustion. Heaven is also revealing a pattern now, something you have repeated emotionally or spiritually without fully recognizing why. Michael says this pattern is connected to a deeper root, a place where you learned to carry more than you should have, give more than was returned, or remain silent when your spirit needed to speak. You have been absorbing emotional signals from others, interpreting them as your own, and internalizing energy that did not belong to you. But this pattern is breaking now. Not gradually, decisively. Your spirit is reclaiming its boundaries. Your inner world is regaining its authority. You will no longer move according to emotional currents that are not your own. Michael reveals that the next layer of clarity involves understanding a situation that has been subtly disrupting your peace. You may not have seen the details, but your spirit recognized the misalignment. Your intuition picked up the truth long before your mind could. That uneasy tug you felt was heaven signaling that something beneath the surface needed to be exposed. Not to alarm you, but to protect you. Not to create distance, but to create discernment. You have been sensing the shift because the spiritual reality has already changed, even if the physical circumstances have not yet caught up. Michael says you have entered a spiritually sensitive window where truth cannot hide from your spirit anymore. You may feel sudden realizations, sudden clarity, sudden shifts in emotion or perception. Do not fear these changes. They are signs that your spiritual sight is strengthening. You will begin to notice patterns you overlooked before. You will understand the meaning behind silences, behind energy shifts, behind the feelings that once confused you. What was once blurry will become clear. What felt unsettling will now make sense. The pieces that once refused to fit will finally lock together with divine precision. Heaven is also preparing you for something ahead, a new assignment, a new chapter, a new clarity of purpose. Michael says the reason your spirit has been shedding old identities, old expectations, old emotional burdens is because your calling requires a lighter heart, sharper intuition, and clearer vision. You are stepping out of emotional entanglement and into spiritual alignment. You are stepping out of self-doubt and into inner authority. You are stepping out of confusion and into revelation. This is not a small shift. This is a spiritual repositioning. Michael leans in closer now with a message meant only for those ready to receive deeper truth. You are not who you were 6 months ago. You are not who you were yesterday. You are not even who you were this morning. You are transforming in real time, and heaven has been preparing the revelation that meets this new version of you. He says your heart is ready. Your mind is ready. Your spirit is ready. The next unveiling carries the answers to the questions you've been silently holding. Stay with this, beloved. The revelation deepens again. Type "I embrace this awakening" in the comments if this message resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 822 is released over your journey. The loved heart, a profound hush, settles across the spiritual atmosphere as Archangel Michael steps forward once more, carrying a depth of truth that presses gently yet firmly upon your inner world. He says you have reached a pivotal turning point, a moment where everything that has been shifting quietly within you begins to surface with purpose. For a long time, your spirit has been walking ahead of your understanding. You sensed the changes before you could describe them. You felt the tension before you knew the cause. Your emotions spoke in subtle whispers, and your intuition tugged at you like a soft thread pulling you toward something unseen. Michael reveals today that all of this was preparation. Every sigh, every moment of restlessness, every unanswered question has been leading you toward this moment of illumination. Michael shows me an image of you standing before a long corridor lined with closed doors. Some doors you tried to open, only to find them locked. Some you hesitated to approach. Some you avoided even though you felt drawn to them. He says these doors represent different dimensions of your life where clarity has been withheld until now. Not as punishment, but as protection. Heaven does not reveal truth when you are not yet strong enough to handle it. It reveals truth when you are ready to rise into it. And you, beloved soul, have reached readiness. There has been a quiet war inside you, a tug-of-war between your logic and your spirit. Your mind tried to rationalize things, to make sense of behaviors, situations, or emotional patterns that felt inconsistent, unstable, or unclear. But your spirit carried a different awareness, one that sensed what your eyes could not see. Michael says this internal conflict was not confusion. It was discernment awakening. You were being trained to trust the voice within, not the noise around you. And now, the gap between what you sense and what you know is closing. Revelation is catching up with intuition. Michael reveals that a part of you has been holding on to something that is already energetically shifting out of your life. Not because you failed, not because you misstepped, but because heaven has been gently redirecting you away from emotional entanglement and into spiritual alignment. You have been feeling the unraveling even if you did not understand it. A sense of distance, a shift in energy, a change in emotional rhythm. These were not signs of loss. They were signs of transition. You are being pulled toward your next chapter, and anything that cannot go with you has begun to loosen its hold. There is also a truth about someone or something that your spirit has been trying to signal to you. Michael says this truth is not meant to break your heart. It is meant to free it. You have been absorbing emotions that were not yours. You have been filling in blanks that others left empty. You have been giving meaning to what needed clarity instead. Heaven is stepping in now to give you that clarity. You will soon recognize the difference between emotional guessing and divine knowing. And once you see the truth, your heart will feel a sudden release, as though a tightening inside you finally relaxes. Michael brings forward another vision, you standing in front of a mirror that reflects not who you think you are, but who you are becoming. In this reflection, your eyes look clearer, your posture stronger, your energy brighter. He says you are shedding the old layers of your identity, layers shaped by past disappointments, by emotional burdens, by self-doubt, by expectations placed on you by others. You are becoming a purer version of yourself, one aligned with your divine purpose. And because of this, your spirit cannot tolerate environments, patterns, or relationships that blur your clarity. You have been outgrowing things you once prayed to keep. not out of pride, but out of evolution. There is a divine correction unfolding within you. Michael explains that the discomfort you have felt in recent seasons was not a sign that you were lost. It was a sign that you were being recalibrated. Heaven was adjusting your spiritual compass, shifting you away from cycles that would drain your strength and toward paths that would amplify your calling. You are not behind. You have not missed anything. You are exactly where you need to be for revelation to unfold. Michael reveals that there is a message your spirit has been trying to speak to you through your dreams, your instincts, your quiet moments, and your sudden inner knowing. That message is becoming clear. You are stepping out of survival mode into spiritual awareness. You are leaving behind emotional fog and stepping into divine perception. You are transitioning from carrying burdens to walking in clarity. Heaven is removing the weight from your shoulders, one invisible piece at a time. But hear this. Michael says what comes next will illuminate a deeper layer of truth. Something you once interpreted incorrectly will be clarified. Something you once feared will be seen for what it really is. Something that once confused you will finally make sense. And this understanding will change the way you move forward. You will no longer walk with hesitation. You will no longer question your worth. You will no longer apologize for your sensitivity. You will embrace your intuition as the divine gift it has always been. Michael urges you to remain present, to remain open, to remain steady. The next revelation is close, so close your spirit is already responding to it. Do not step away now. Do not drift. The truth that is unfolding is meant to liberate you. Hold your heart steady. The revelation sharpens again from here. Type "I welcome divine truth" in the comments if this message resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 911 is now released over your journey. Beloved soul of destiny, a deeper spiritual gravity fills the atmosphere as Archangel Michael steps forward with a revelation that carries the weight of truth, timing, and divine correction. He says you have crossed an invisible line, a spiritual threshold that marks the transition between seeking clarity and receiving it. What you have been sensing was never random. What tugged at your spirit was never imagined. What pulled at your intuition was never a mistake. Heaven has been orchestrating an awakening inside you that could not be rushed, could not be interrupted, and could not arrive before this very moment. Michael says, you were being prepared to see what your spirit has been whispering all along. And now, beloved heart, the vision begins to take shape. Michael shows me an image of a long, dim hallway where only one door at the far end glows with light. You have been walking toward this door slowly, guided not by sight, but by inner knowing. Along the way, you passed doors that looked appealing but did not open. You passed doors that opened but led nowhere meaningful. You passed doors that tempted you to settle. But your spirit continued forward, even when you questioned yourself, even when you doubted your intuition, even when others could not understand the shift stirring inside you. Michael reveals that heaven blocked every door that would have delayed your clarity. Every detour was prevented. Every distraction was removed. Heaven escorted you toward the door that was meant to open today. There has been a spiritual tension building inside you, a sense of waiting without knowing what you were waiting for. Your emotions sensed the shift first, an unrest that wouldn't leave, a quiet longing you couldn't name, a subtle ache in your spirit. Your intuition followed next, picking up signals that did not match the surface of your circumstances. Your body even felt it, through tiredness, through heaviness, through moments where you withdrew not out of fear, but out of divine preparation. Michael says your entire being has been aligning itself for the truth that is unfolding now. He reveals that something in your environment, something connected to a person, a situation, or an emotional pattern has been out of alignment with your destiny. You felt the misalignment before you understood it. You sensed the emotional imbalance even when you couldn't explain it. You noticed the subtle inconsistencies, the energetic shifts, the unspoken signals. Heaven has been highlighting this truth to you through small moments. Moments you dismissed, moments you forgot, moments you tried to rationalize. But your spirit never forgot. It has been carrying the awareness for you until you were ready to face it with strength, not fear. Michael says the reason you felt a growing distance, a quiet disconnection, or a sudden clarity about certain people or situations is because heaven has been cutting cords that were draining your energy. These were emotional ties that once felt necessary, but now hinder your growth. They kept you in cycles that blurred your vision. They held pieces of you hostage in places where you no longer belong. Heaven has been freeing your spirit from these entanglements so that you can step into the clarity and purpose meant for you. This is why your heart has felt lighter in some ways, heavier in others. This is the releasing and rebalancing of your spiritual field. Michael brings forward a powerful vision. You holding a key in your right hand, a key forged from every moment of growth, every tear, every awakening, every shift. This key represents spiritual authority. For so long, you felt like you were waiting for permission, from circumstances, from clarity, from others, to step into your next season. But heaven has given you the key. You are not waiting for clarity anymore. Clarity is waiting for you. And when you use that key, when you embrace what heaven is showing you, your entire path will shift into alignment with divine timing. Heaven is also revealing the truth behind your recent emotional sensitivity. You have not been overly emotional. You have been spiritually receptive. Your intuition has expanded. Your discernment has awakened. Your inner guidance has sharpened to a degree you have never experienced before. These are signs of elevation, not instability. Signs of calling, not confusion. Signs of spiritual maturity, not weakness. Michael says your sensitivity is a sign that heaven has been pouring revelation into your spirit, preparing you for a level of awareness that requires both courage and clarity. What you are about to understand next will bring peace to the part of you that has been carrying questions for far too long. This next unveiling will settle what has been unsettled, clear what has been clouded, and free what has been bound. Michael urges you, with a voice both gentle and unyielding, do not step away now. The truth is closer than breath, and your spirit is already rising to meet it. Before we continue deeper, take a breath. Ground your heart. Prepare your spirit. What comes next will connect every scattered piece into a single divine revelation. If this message is touching you, if the clarity is rising inside your spirit, like this video, comment what you are feeling. Share this message with someone who needs direction. Hype it to push the message farther. And subscribe so you do not miss what heaven releases next. Every action helps spread the divine call placed over this mission. Type "I am ready for truth" in the comments if your spirit feels the shift. Blessing code 1188 is released over your journey. Beloved soul, a profound quiet begins to settle around you as Archangel Michael steps forward once again, carrying a deeper, sharper layer of revelation that pierces through the remaining fog around your spirit. He says the journey you have been walking through these unfolding messages has not been passive. It has been active alignment. Every word has been stripping away confusion, dissolving illusions, untangling emotional knots, and preparing your inner world for the truth that is now rising to the surface. You are not simply listening, you are transforming. Your spirit is expanding, your perception is maturing, and your emotional landscape is rearranging itself to receive what heaven has kept hidden until you reach this moment of readiness. Michael whispers gently, "You are closer to your breakthrough than you realize." And with that, the next layer begins to unfold. He shows me an image of your heart surrounded by threads, some bright, some dim, some frayed, some strong. These threads represent connections, memories, attachments, expectations, and subtle emotional ties that have been influencing your life more deeply than you have understood. Some of these threads strengthen you, anchoring you to your purpose. Others drain you, pulling at your peace and clouding your clarity. Michael says heaven has been loosening the threads that no longer serve your spirit, even when you did not consciously notice it. This is why you have felt emotional shifts without explanation. This is why certain desires faded, certain connections thinned, and certain situations that once felt necessary now feel strangely distant. Your spirit has been letting go long before your mind could articulate why. Michael reveals that there has been a silent battle within you, a quiet tug-of-war between holding on and releasing. You felt the weight of this conflict in your chest, in your energy, in your thoughts. You questioned your own inner signals, wondering whether your discernment was accurate or whether you were responding to stress, emotions, or uncertainty. But Michael clarifies that what you felt was divine pressure, not confusion. Heaven was nudging you toward clarity with increasing intensity, because the truth that is unfolding now required space within you. The old attachments had to loosen for the new revelation to take root. You were not losing parts of your life. You were clearing room for alignment. There is also something heaven wants to address, something you have kept buried beneath strength. A truth you have avoided confronting because it carried emotional weight. A situation you tolerated because you valued peace more than clarity. A cycle you endured because you did not yet have the perspective to understand its deeper spiritual meaning. Michael says that the time has come to see this truth without fear. Not because it will hurt you, but because it will free you. Heaven never reveals truth to break your heart. It reveals truth to mend it. He shows me another vision, you standing in a field at dusk. Behind you is a shadowy landscape representing what you have outgrown. People, beliefs, patterns, hopes, and illusions that no longer match who you are becoming. Before you is a rising light, not yet bright but undeniably approaching. Michael says you have been looking over your shoulder, trying to understand the past, replaying moments, replaying signals, replaying emotions that no longer belong to your future. But the rising light ahead of you is far greater than the shadows behind you. Heaven is shifting your gaze forward. You are stepping into an era of clarity where hindsight is no longer your teacher. Revelation becomes your guide. Michael says you have carried questions that were heavier than you realized. Questions about purpose, about connection, about timing, about direction, about truth. You carried these questions quietly because you felt you needed to be strong, grounded, composed. But heaven has heard them all. Every unspoken concern, every silent confusion, every moment of uncertainty you tucked away so you could keep moving. Michael reveals that heaven has gathered these concerns like seeds, and what is being planted in you now is the harvest of divine understanding. There is a truth about your intuition that heaven wants to highlight. Michael says you have doubted your discernment far too often. You questioned your feelings, dismissed your inner warnings, and second-guessed your spiritual sensitivity because you feared being wrong, misunderstood, or emotionally reactive. But heaven says your intuition has been accurate. You felt misalignment because misalignment was present. You sensed distance because distance was forming. You perceived change because change was unfolding. Your spirit has been reading the truth long before your mind could decode it. And now, the two are finally catching up with each other. Heaven is preparing you for an internal shift that will finalize this chapter of awakening. You will begin to see patterns clearly. You will understand motives with ease. You will interpret emotional energy in ways that once confused you. You will recognize the difference between truth and illusion instantly. Michael says this next clarity will not be subtle. It will be decisive. Like a light switching on in a room you once walked through in the dark. The moment it happens, your spirit will feel the release. Your heart will feel the confirmation. Your mind will feel the peace. Before we move forward, Michael gently urges you to stay grounded in this moment. He says, you are on the edge of revelation. Do not turn away now. What comes next will complete what your spirit has been sensing all along. The truth is approaching like a rising wave, and you are ready for it. Hold steady, beloved soul. The unveiling continues. Type I accept this revelation in the comments if this message resonates with your spirit. Blessing code 1444 is now released over your path. Beloved spirit, a deep and stirring presence surrounds you now as Archangel Michael steps forward with a revelation meant to break through the final layers of uncertainty that have lingered in your heart. He says the journey you have been walking through these messages has been more than reflection. It has been preparation. Each layer that has unfolded has peeled away something that once clouded your inner sight. Each moment of resonance you felt was your spirit rising into a new level of awareness. You are not receiving information. You are receiving transformation. Michael reveals that your spirit has reached a point where deeper truth can finally be shown without overwhelming you. You have become steady enough, strong enough, and clear enough to perceive what your heart has been quietly calling out for. Michael shows me an image of a spiral staircase ascending into a glow of warm light. You have been climbing this staircase step by step, not always aware of your progress. Some steps were heavy with emotion. Some were filled with silence. Some were confusing. Some carried breakthrough. But through it all, you climbed. Heaven watched every step. Heaven steadied your spirit. Heaven corrected your path. Now you stand at a higher vantage point, one where the things that once looked tangled from below now reveal their pattern and purpose from above. You are seeing from a different altitude. He reveals that the reason your emotions have felt inconsistent recently is because your spirit has been adjusting to the new clarity rising within you. Old beliefs were being uprooted. Old expectations were being rewired. Old attachments were being loosened. This process created tension because your inner world was changing faster than your outer world. You felt this as restlessness, as heightened sensitivity, as sudden waves of knowing, as unexplainable shifts in your relationships and desires. Heaven says these were not signs of turmoil. They were the birth pangs of clarity. Michael says there is a truth you have been circling for a long time, almost like walking around a sealed box without realizing the key has been in your hand. You sensed the box contained something important. You felt the weight of it even when you couldn't see inside. You felt the pressure of revelation forming, like a storm building quietly in the distance. Today, heaven begins to open that box. Not all at once, but with the first crack of light that slips through the seam. What emerges brings understanding to questions you have been carrying for far too long. There is something you misinterpreted about yourself. Something you thought was weakness. Something you believed was instability. But Michael shows that what you labeled as confusion was actually spiritual depth. You feel deeply because you perceive deeply. You sense shifts before they manifest because heaven wired your spirit for discernment. You pick up emotional energy around you because you are connected to the unseen currents. What you mistook for emotional heaviness was actually spiritual sensitivity. Your gift has been maturing in silence. Michael brings forward another vision, you holding a compass that once spun inconsistently. The needle wavered, pointing in multiple directions, making you question your path. But suddenly, the needle steadies, pointing forward with unwavering certainty. He says this compass represents your intuition. For a season, it felt difficult to follow because you were in a spiritual recalibration. Now that the recalibration is complete, your inner compass will become precise. You will feel clarity where you once felt confusion. You will feel assurance where you once felt doubt. You will recognize your path with confidence, not hesitation. Heaven wants to address something else, something connected to emotional energy you unintentionally carried for others. Michael says you have taken on burdens that were never yours to hold. You tried to fix what you were meant to release. You tried to soothe what you were meant to outgrow. You tried to interpret behaviors that were not reflections of your worth, but reflections of another person's internal battles. Heaven says your heart has been too generous, too soft, too willing to understand. This generosity is beautiful, but it must be balanced with self-protection. Your spirit is reclaiming its boundaries now. Michael reveals that you are stepping into a phase where truth will arrive effortlessly. No more guessing. No more emotional labor. No more confusion masquerading as responsibility. Heaven is bringing clarity to your relationships, clarity to your decisions, clarity to your purpose. You will see people's intentions clearly. You will feel the energy behind situations instantly. You will know what aligns with your spirit and what drains it. This clarity is not something you will need to chase. It will unfold naturally as your spirit continues rising into alignment. There is also a divine correction unfolding around you. Heaven is rearranging circumstances, redirecting paths, and revealing truths that were once obscure. You may notice things falling away suddenly. You may see certain dynamics shifting. You may experience moments of unexpected release. Michael says these shifts are not losses. They are divine repositionings. Heaven is clearing the wrong energies so the right ones can enter. You are being aligned with people who support your purpose, not drain it. You are being aligned with opportunities that empower you, not confuse you. You are being aligned with truths that lift you, not unsettle you. Michael leans in closely with a message only the awakened will understand. Your spirit has been knocking on the door of revelation. The door is about to open fully. He says the next layer will not only bring clarity, it will bring direction. You are moving from insight to action, from awareness to purpose, from confusion to alignment. Your spirit is ready. Stay with this flow, beloved soul. The unveiling is not finished yet. Type "I claim divine alignment" in the comments if your spirit feels this truth resonating. Blessing Code 2211 is released upon your path. Beloved soul, a powerful shift fills the atmosphere as Archangel Michael steps forward once again, carrying a revelation that descends gently yet firmly into the deepest layers of your being. He says this moment marks the beginning of a spiritual unveiling unlike any you have encountered before. You have walked through the corridors of awakening, layer after layer, truth after truth, each one preparing you for the magnitude of what is emerging now. Your heart has stretched. Your intuition has sharpened. Your spirit has awakened with a strength you did not possess merely weeks or months ago. Michael whispers, you have become the vessel capable of receiving what once would have overwhelmed you. And now the next revelation begins to rise. Michael shows me a vision of you standing before a vast landscape, one half covered in shadows, the other bathed in gradual light. You stand at the threshold between these two realms, not fully in the darkness of confusion any longer, but not yet fully in the clarity of illumination. This is the place of transition, the sacred in-between, where heaven reshapes your inner world before guiding your outer steps. You have felt this place deeply. You have sensed yourself standing between endings and beginnings. You have noticed the shift in your emotions, in your thoughts, in your energy. He reveals that this threshold is not a place of delay. It is a place of divine preparation. Only those who are called to deeper clarity are brought here. There is something heaven has been untangling within you for a long time, an emotional knot, a pattern, a lingering attachment, or an internal uncertainty that has kept your spirit from fully stepping into its authority. Michael says this knot has been woven through years of experience, misunderstanding, self-doubt, and emotional weight. You tried to ignore it. You tried to silence it. You tried to outgrow it. But heaven has chosen to dissolve it. Not through force, but through revelation. And what has been heavy for years will feel light in a moment when truth finally settles. He reveals that you have been carrying an echo of something left unspoken, unresolved, or misunderstood. You felt it in moments when you were quiet with yourself. You sensed it during sudden waves of emotion. You noticed it when your intuition spoke louder than your mind. This echo was not weakness. It was a message waiting to be understood. Michael says heaven has been waiting for your spirit to reach this level of clarity, so it could reveal the truth behind that echo. And now, with your heart steadier and your sensitivity refined, the revelation can finally unfold. Michael brings another vision. You holding a book with numerous chapters already written, but the current chapter has blank pages. You turned these pages over and over, wondering why no words appeared, why no direction formed, why no clarity came. Heaven kept this chapter blank intentionally. You were not ready to fill it. You were still carrying emotional residue from old seasons. You were still holding on to beliefs that no longer match your true identity. You were still waiting for confirmation when heaven wanted to give revelation. But now, Michael says the ink begins to flow. The blank pages will not remain blank. What you are about to understand will give you the first sentences of the next chapter of your life. There is also something heaven wants you to recognize about your spiritual evolution. You have been undergoing a quiet transformation that others cannot see, but your spirit feels deeply. You have outgrown roles you once stepped into easily. You have outgrown expectations placed on you by others. You have outgrown emotional cycles that used to define your patterns. You have outgrown internal dialogues that belong to an older version of you. Michael says the reason you have felt disconnected from certain things recently is because your spirit is no longer compatible with them. You are being elevated. And elevation always requires separation from energies that cannot follow you. Michael reveals that your intuition has been speaking clearly, but your mind has struggled to trust it fully. This is because intuition speaks in knowing, while the mind seeks evidence. But heaven says your knowing has been accurate. You sensed the shift because the shift was there. You noticed the imbalance because imbalance had formed. You felt the change in energy because spiritual reality always manifests in your spirit before it shows itself in the physical world. Michael says you will soon receive confirmation, a moment, a sign, a realization that validates what your spirit has already discerned. He brings forward another vision, you walking forward, and behind you the ground you once stood on begins to fade, almost like it was never meant to hold you permanently. This symbolizes the emotional territories you are stepping out of, patterns, attachments, beliefs, and stories that no longer resonate with your new alignment. Heaven is not removing them to create emptiness. Heaven is removing them to make room for what is truly meant for you. You are stepping into a higher spiritual frequency, and everything that cannot match this frequency falls away naturally. Michael says the next part of your journey will be marked by clarity and direction. You will no longer move from guessing to guessing, or from feeling lost to feeling hopeful again. Instead, your path will begin to feel guided, illuminated, structured. Your decisions will become easier. Your boundaries will become clearer. Your vision will sharpen. Your emotional world will stabilize. This is the fruit of awakening, and you are standing at its threshold. Before we go deeper, Michael urges you to breathe and remain present. He says, the next revelation carries the understanding you have been waiting for. Do not turn away. Do not rush ahead. Stay with the unfolding. The truth is drawing closer. Type "I receive this awakening" in the comments if your spirit feels aligned. Blessing code 3300 is released over your life. Beloved one, a sacred stillness settles as Archangel Michael steps forward with the final and most piercing revelation of this divine unfolding. He says you have walked with courage through each layer of truth, allowing heaven to peel back what once clouded your vision and tighten the threads that bind your destiny. You have stood in the in-between, the sacred threshold where old cycles loosen and new purpose begins to breathe. Your heart has expanded, your discernment sharpened, and your spiritual sensitivity has matured into a strength that heaven can now entrust with deeper understanding. Michael whispers with authority, you have reached the moment your spirit has been crying out for. And now, the final revelation rises. Michael shows me a powerful vision of you standing before a massive gate carved with symbols of truth, purpose, and divine timing. This gate has remained shut for seasons, not because you were unworthy, but because clarity withheld is clarity protected. Heaven only opens what you are prepared to enter. But now, after walking through these spiritual unveilings, you stand in the radiance of readiness. Your heart no longer trembles in confusion. Your intuition no longer whispers faintly. You are aligned, aware, receptive. And with this readiness, the gate begins to open before you. He reveals that the heaviness you felt over recent months was not chaos or emotional instability. It was the final resistance of an old identity dissolving. You shed versions of yourself that were shaped by fear, shaped by misunderstanding, shaped by expectations that never belonged to your spirit. You outgrew emotional patterns that were not rooted in truth. You walked away from energies that diluted your intuition. You stepped out of roles you were never meant to carry into your next chapter. Every piece that fell away was making room for the revelation you are receiving now. Michael says heaven has been aligning circumstances behind the scenes, orchestrating spiritual conditions that would bring you into clarity with divine precision. You may have noticed sudden moments of detachment, unexpected emotional distance, or unexplainable shifts in your intuition. These were signals, subtle spiritual nudges, guiding you out of what no longer matched your awakening. The people who drifted away were divinely released. The opportunities that paused were divinely protected. The silence you felt was heaven clearing your inner space. You were not being ignored. You were being prepared. He brings forward another vision, a bright, glowing thread stretching between your spirit and your divine destiny. This thread represents alignment. It is the connection between who you are and who you were created to become. For the first time in a long time, this thread is no longer tangled. It is straight, steady, and illuminated. Your path is aligning. Your purpose is clarifying. Your spirit is stepping into its rightful position. Michael says the confusion that once clouded your heart is losing its power. The uncertainty that once grabbed hold of your thoughts is dissolving. What once felt scattered now moves toward unity and comprehension. Heaven reveals that the reason this final revelation took time is because your spirit needed to grow into the strength required to carry it. If it had come too soon, it would have been overwhelming. If it had come too late, it would have left you in unnecessary struggle. But it comes now, at the exact moment your heart is open enough to receive truth and your spirit is strong enough to stand in it. Michael says, your clarity is not future. Your clarity is now. You are stepping into a season where truth finds you before confusion does, where purpose finds you before doubt does, where divine direction finds you before hesitation does. He shows another vision, you rising from a valley toward a mountaintop. In the valley, your sight was limited. You could only see what stood in front of you. But on the mountain, your vision expands. You see past the confusion. You see patterns that once made no sense. You understand why certain relationships shifted. You understand why your intuition warned you. You understand why heaven withheld certain outcomes. You understand why your spirit felt what it felt long before your mind caught up. This mountaintop represents your new spiritual vantage point. Michael reveals the final truth. You have been equipped, strengthened, and awakened to step into a season where you no longer chase clarity. You carry it. You no longer guess your way through situations. You discern them. You no longer seek signs out of desperation. You receive confirmation from a place of spiritual alignment. The fog has lifted. The veil has been removed. Your spirit is no longer in the waiting place. You have arrived at understanding. He urges you to hold steady, because what comes after revelation is activation. Your life will begin to move differently. Your decisions will become clearer. Your path will open with ease. Your connections will filter themselves. Your spirit will walk with confidence. Heaven is not just revealing truth. Heaven is positioning you to live in it. This is your awakening. This is your clarity. This is your alignment. And heaven stands with you. Type "I step into divine truth" in the comments if this message is sealing itself within your spirit. Blessing code 5500 is released over your life in full measure.